Hi everyone, Comic Book Reviewer here, this time reviewing on issue 2 of the 2013 series Ultimate Comics Wolverine. Now, as you know, Ultimate Comics Wolverine was a 4 or 5 part series which was meant to feature the second Ultimate Wolverine, Jimmy, as the new Wolverine, and learning more about his parents, his heritage, and more truths about his actual father, Wolverine. And let's get on with the story. The story starts off many years ago at a clinic. We see how there's more truths about this clinic, and down below the floor, we see how Logan and his team are taking down people trying to tamper with basically human DNA. We see how they have to get the files and all that. And we see right away, after taking down the gods and the scientists, they mainly get their big break and get the data they need. So of course, we see how from now, we see how obviously Jimmy as well as Black Box have one last look in the area known as Florida, where obviously Jimmy's adopted father, known as James, is finishing up the boat. And we see right away how Jimmy's parents are obviously trying to get used to everything that's happened. We see how they kind of have to make best of the situation. And I think they make it clear that, unlike Black Box, who sees things a bit like a child, Jimmy is a little realistic, because if he was to say hello or meet up with his parents, they could easily get put in danger. They know obviously about the whole mutants being turned over to the government sort of thing, and knows they can't really risk any unnecessary problems. And we see how in the same clinic from many years ago, Jimmy and Nat are heading into the building, unaware of a mercenary group, one of which being led by the guy known as Wildchild, who's obviously meant to be Jimmy's own version of Sabretooth. And we see how they're kind of fascinated by the whole old stuff here, and you can definitely tell that this was before Jimmy was conceived. And we see how they kind of learn more about the technology here. And turns out it was all for tampering with DNA, trying to make more powerful mutants and so forth. And obviously Jimmy saying, What are you saying? They called it Project Mothervine, and for whatever reason, Wolverine wanted you to know about it. Not bad for a couple of amateur detectives. The Harley Boys would be proud. And we kind of see how Wildchild and his group end up meeting Jimmy and Nat, and we see how Jimmy tries to take on his own version of Sabretooth to little to no avail. And we see right away Black Box tries to kind of handle the situation, but ends up making multiple copies of Wolverine. And we see right away Wildchild is saying, What the hell? Is that the Wolverine? Heads up. So what you, some kind of Wolverine Jr.? Good news for you, kid. I've been studying Wolverine for years. He was the best there was. And you ain't even that close. And there is an issue where, obviously here, that I'm not going to reveal, but let's just say rip skin from the henchman. But we kind of see how, obviously, Wildchild gets his neck snapped, and this is where Jimmy comes face to face with Ultimate Quicksilver, and turns out they're meant to be half-brothers. And it turns out that this young woman here is meant to be the mother of Scarlet Witch, as well as Quicksilver, and the mother of Jimmy. And obviously, before main Marvel doing these soap opera stories, Ultimate Comics were doing it a bit more. And this is the story. So I think here, issue 2 is okay, but I feel like what they're trying to do is obviously do this big soap opera story where character learns about their family, they learn that their sort of rival or their sort of foe that they're against is their sort of long lost sibling. We kind of also see where obviously Marvel has suffered the whole later season effect, much like The Simpsons, doing these plot twists, retcons, or just these kind of big reveals that feel unnecessary. It's an okay story, not the best, but it still deserves thumbs in the middle. Kind of alright, kind of okay, but does there to be something from the Ultimate Comics run? And I do admit they wasted Wildchild's potential in being Jimmy's own version of Sabretooth. So, comic reviewer here, signing out.